Buenos dias, muchachos. We wanted to do a short slideshow with the basics of Spanish pronunciation. So no, don't get upset or worried about how difficult it's going to be. Trust me, it will be something that you um, will be able to achieve some success on from the get-go. So just sit back and enjoy. I don't want to go on and on about this. What we will do is I'll give you these basics, and then throughout the 14 sessions, you'll be hearing me mimic the pronunciation. You'll be hearing other people online mimic the conversation, and I want you to pay attention to what I'm saying, as well as what these notes that we're giving you through this slideshow. And then as problems come up, I'll give you gentle reminders in class, so that by the end of the level 1 14 sessions, I think you'll have a good feel for the basics of Spanish pronunciation. The most important thing you want to remember is there are 5 vowels in Spanish, which is the same as in English. But in English, we have the possibility of pronouncing vowels differently. I won't go into all of those examples, but I put a few here. What that means as a difference is when you encounter the vowel in Spanish, whenever you encounter it, and as many times as you encounter it, it's always going to be pronounced exactly the same, and it's got to have the full value, they say, of the vowel each time it appears and each time you pronounce it. We'll give you plenty of examples of that. So our first vowel in English, the letter A, you have a long A, cake, you have the a, the hat, and you have a word like banana, which has 3 appearances of the letter, but we give ba-na-na. So the and are the first and the second, and ba-na, in the middle. Down below we have Pete and pet. Okay, we have a long E and what's called a short E. Spanish does not do that. So if these were all words in Spanish, every time in a word like banana, you'll see each time would be pronounced the same, exact same way. We will now do the 5 vowels, and I will give you examples in Spanish. And please note that every time the letter appears, it's pronounced exactly the same way. A, a, banana, banana, mama, mama, papa, papa, Panama, Panama. So always a is pronounced a. Doesn't matter how many times it appears in the word, doesn't matter how many words you find, how many times you find the letter, every single time it's going to be a. By the way, the name for the letter when you're saying the alphabet is the same as the sound. So a is the letter when you're spelling, and a is the sound when you're pronouncing. E, e. Here we have an English pronunciation of a, but it's not a as in day. It's not real long. It's short. E, e. Bebe, bebe. Elefante, elefante, elefante. Bebe. I, I, isla, isla. Sí, sí. Chica, chica. O, o. Note it's not O as in no, no. No. O, oso, oso. Loco, loco. Coco, coco. Loco, coco. U, u. We don't do the U as in Cuba in English. We say Cuba, Cuba. Futuro, futuro. Cuba, futuro. U, u. Many of the consonants in Spanish are pronounced the same way as in English, but we do have some distinctions. Here are a few, and here's how they are pronounced with some examples. This is pronounced eye, eye, and the double L is pronounced as a Y. So we would say not llama, but llama, llama, llama. Me llamo, me llamo. Calle, calle, calle. And it should be noted that some places in South America, they give this eye more of a zh sound. So they would say llama as opposed to llama, an open Y, or me llamo, calle instead of calle, or me llamo. But I use the more open sound, and you'll be hearing it that way in class. But I just wanted to call your attention to there are different pronunciations because there are 20 countries out there that speak Spanish, and each puts its own twist on the language. The H is always silent, so every time you see it, you need to pretend you're not seeing it and don't pronounce it. Hola, hola. Hermano, hermano. Hermana, hermana. Hola, hola. And this letter is called the H. H is how we say H, and it's not pronounced. The J in Spanish, however, is pronounced like our H. So we would say, and the letter is called a J, J, as in J, Jalisco, Jalisco, Don Quixote, Don Quixote, Jalisco, Don Quixote. Jamás, jamás. Jalisco, Don Quixote, jamás. The B and V are both pronounced the same way, and they are, you expel a little less air than you do when you're saying them in Spanish, so it's a softer situation when you pronounce the B and V. Bolivia, Bolivia. Basco, baso, baso. Base, verbo, verbo. Bolivia, baso, base, verbo. People worry about not being able to roll their R's in Spanish and think that if they can't manage rolling their R's, they're a failure, and people aren't going to understand them. That is not the case. The double R is rolled and the single R is rolled, but only at the beginning of a word. But if you're unable to do that, you're still going to be able to make yourself understood. Here are the some examples in which we roll our R's. Perro, perro, carro, carro, rico, rico, rata, rata. The zeta and the S are pronounced the same, with a hiss as opposed to a buzzing B sound. Zzz, none of that. So it's just s, whether it's an S or a Z, as in zapato, zapato, casa, 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 zapato. The C can be also pronounced as an S when it precedes an E or an I, as in cine, cine, a movie theater, cena, cena. Here's the same letter C coming before an O, a U, or an A, in which we give it a hard sound like a K. Cuba, Cuba, carro, carro. And then this word, you see, you have both the C before the O, so we give it the hard K sound, and then the C before the I, we give it the S sound. So this word becomes cocina, cocina, Cuba, carro, cocina. The ñ is pronounced like an N followed by a Y. There is a plain N in Spanish, just like our N, but there's this ñ which has this different added sound to it, as in baño, baño, niño, niño, cumpleaños, cumpleaños, niño, baño, cumpleaños. And there we have the basics of Spanish pronunciation. If you remember these rules and practice them with each new word, and every word that you pick up is going to be new at this point in your development, pretty much. If you remember these rules, concentrate on them to learn them, but also see them in action, listen to them being used, listen to words being pronounced correctly, then you'll be all right.